Welcome to the Ice King Cast, a place where we discuss RPGs, characters, opinions, and thoughts to escape the monotony of everyday life. Today, we're going to be talking about what makes an RPG. Specifically, what game or tabletop, what actually constitutes as a role-playing game. So, I'm joined today by Sir Rankin. Say hi, Sir Rankin.
Hello.
That's Sir Rankin. He's ranking it. The question that we're posing is essentially, let's take an example for what I mean. So, as far as we know right now, say for example, Final Fantasy VII is an RPG. Skyrim is an RPG. Those are considered, and in their title, role-playing games. But what if we went a step further? What if we said, or what if I said, Halo was a role-playing game? And my argument to that would be, you are playing as a character in a story, and you're tasked with objectives. The biggest difference is you don't have stat blocks or things that you're trying to change. But does that make it an RPG just because you're more locked into what you're doing? Rankin, what's your thoughts?
I mean, you can change guns, change your play style, more of a sniper. Well, now you're role-playing that character, and you're like, hey, I'm a far shooter. I pick a power shield or whatever, depending on which Halo game you're playing.
Yeah, so my thought would be it's a role-playing game. That character you're playing is Master Chief, and you go around and shoot aliens. Yes, you are, like in most role-playing games, the hero. You're the guy that's unstoppable, unless you're playing, first level Dungeons and Dragons. You might get squashed. But, and some might argue that, no, it's a shooter, because that's the genre, you're just going around shooting. Well, at the same time, you may be going around and just shooting things, trying to, murder what you can, but you're still playing a character. They're in a story, doing what you need to do, going around, how do I word it? To me, role-playing, you're still role-playing a character. You're still playing as a character. Just because it's shooting doesn't make any difference. Let's go back to Final Fantasy 7 or 8. You are playing as that character. You don't get to make your own like you do in other role-playing games. You are playing as a specific character through a set story, fighting enemies in a set way. So what makes that different from Halo aside from the gameplay? The gameplay may not be considered role-playing, but are you role-playing?
I kind of feel like shooter games, it's more easy to get into it, because when you're playing it, you make noises, make a good shot, go, yeah, you die, you curse, you're actually focused, you're trying to aim, you actually really are the character, and there you go, now you're role-playing that guy.
I remember we were talking about this beforehand, and you said that you could see in campaign being that way, but not multiplayer.
No, completely different. Because you're not Master Chief in multiplayer anymore. Multiplayer, depending on your gameplay, you could be a horrible person, you could just go around killing your own friends, or you can just trying to be your best, or just after 5 matches in a row of losing horribly because you have a horrible team, throwing stuff around, I'm out, you guys all suck.
So then I have to pose the question, red versus blue.
That's unfair.
But is it? You can role play as a character. You can customize the way you look. You can go around and shoot people. Respawning's the weird thing, but you can make an excuse for that. Anyone can make an excuse for respawning.
Yeah, any excuse. I'm secretly immortal. I'm blessed. I'm cursed.
You're an AI that just happens to to take over another body that looks exactly the same. I mean, like...
Oh no, my favorite scar! It's back.
The chambers or specific things that regenerate you. Like, there's a lot of... For me, that's what I kind of look at it as. Now, there's also a point where you get into your own personality and you can find yourself a little more when you're playing those games. Kind of like in a role-playing game. You can find out a little bit more about yourself because you trying to be not yourself. I know if I'm on a really good kill streak in Halo, I get really sinister. I will start to crouch a little bit lower, getting closer to the screen, and then going, yeah! And I'll start shouting stupid things while I kill everyone, and no one can stop me until I die, and then get revenge. So
you must always go for revenge.
So now that's one example, and that's, I think, one of the better examples. The easier ones we can go with is video game characters, because even in adventure games, you're playing as that person. You may not be first person playing that person, say Mega Man, for example, but you're playing Mega Man trying to save the world from Dr. Robotnik, or Dr. Robotnik, because he's a butthead.
Does it like affect you, the point of view of games, or role-playing games? So like if it's like I don't know, like when, like for Halo, you're going through the eyes, it feels easier to be that person. Even top-down view, you can kind of believe you are, but for some reason for me, like side view, like jumping games, I just find it really hard to be that person.
Side scrollers?
Yeah.
But you're controlling that person.
Yeah, for some reason I'm like an audience now.
That's a fair view, and I can see that, and that's why I say, and that's why I say things the way I do, where you're role playing as that person because you're controlling them. But then again, I'm taking the word role playing and putting it literally, so it makes sense. Where it's you're role playing. You may not be pretending to be that character in certain role playing games like you are, but you're playing like Skyrim. I've every character I make, no matter what, I always make a personality, their own goals, the way they do things. My latest one on the actual Elder Scrolls Skyrim is a female Nord who's wearing all Nordic armor. She's got 2 axes. She's dual wield one hand, and her whole thing is just rushing in the middle of of everyone and fighting. I sell all the magic potions and stamina potions because I don't need them. Maybe some health potions. Oh, a little too dangerous for my liking. But
easy, don't you?
No, just go up and murder things. And I go, murder hobo. Oh, this is a group of bandits? That's what my HUD says. Well, they're fighting me first, so, and that's where I would go with that. Now, let's try and be a little looser and more argumentative. For example, if anyone's ever played Monopoly or Settlers of Catan, is that a role-playing game?
It's very hard to connect. I mean, for role-playing games, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
For me, it's balanced between 2 things. You're given a story to roleplay and follow, or it's very loose, and then you have a shell, and you make that story for that. If you don't have a person, is it roleplaying?
I mean,
if you don't have that shell.
Technically, let's go with Monopoly, because that one's we both played that one before. In Monopoly, you're a monopolist, you're a tycoon trying to buy up these properties so you can get the most money out of it.
You're a boot or a car.
No, you're pieces of boot or a car, because you're either walking or driving from place to place. If you're in the car, you're unhealthy. I'm never the car. I'm always the thimble. But so that's a looser term as well, because the game says where you become a tycoon or you become a millionaire. You're pretending to, like, you may not be pretending to be someone, but the emotions are real. So, like, normally in a role-playing game, you're pretending emotions, but in this, the emotions are real. Someone buys your property, you're gonna throw your piece at their face and then try and steal their money while they're distracted.
No, that happens when they decline the trade with you. Then the emotions become real. I gave you a deal!
You're discounted crap. But yeah, so that's why, and that's where I wanted to really touch on, is that what constitutes as an RPG. When you're a kid, and you're going out in the yard playing knights or cops and robbers.
When I was young, I played Warcraft. I pretend I was an orc and my friend was a human.
You played it on a computer.
Nope.
Oh boy. But that's role playing, isn't it? I mean, they have this whole thing called LARPing, which is live action role playing, where you run up and hit people with swords and stuff. Like, is it dumb? okay, it's going too far sometimes. Like, especially when, and I've heard stories, mind you, where the story was someone was sitting on the back of, or on the shoulders of someone else as a wizard and throwing balls, and he said, I hit you! Like, come on. One, no, you didn't. And two, you're throwing softballs at people who were wearing close to legit, like, plastic armor. They don't feel that because they feel someone else with a PVC pipe just hit them in the back of the head when they're not supposed to.
Enchanted armor.
That's everyone's excuse. My armor is enchanted by the druids of yore.
You're
No.
what?
Nah, sir. Just give up. Stop this lifestyle. Go home. Go to your families. They miss you. Now, I'm not saying anything bad against LARPers, because, I mean, honestly, if you like doing that, do that. I've just heard stories where it ends up being closer to that aspect. But anyway, the point is, role-playing is basically part of what people do. It's how we interact with the world. It's how we escape everyday monotony.
There you go. You said that you hit on the
Nail on the head?
shoot. Yeah.
That one.
Escape. Hey, why aren't you role-playing your own game? Your own life?
Because that's not role-playing. You're just doing it.
Yeah, and it sucks. Hey, look, this plastic bottle is gonna go on a magical quest to get filled. Oh no, it's been emptied. That water bottle was me. I connected.
This podcast just took a dark turn.
Wait, is it coffee?
What?
Dark turn, it's coffee.
Oh, gosh. So, what's another good example of, so we talked about miniatures before, role-playing, like we've got, Blood Bowl and all the Games Workshop games. I personally started, like, you have these games where you can have narrative games, role-play scenes in wars and stuff. Warcry now, where you can take your little warband that you've made and try and take over part of the was it the 8 gates or 8 realms? I can't remember what it's called. The 8 points. That's what it was. But the you pick your team and things like that. It's role-playing as well. I have an army called the Flesh Eater Courts, which I bought them because I wanted to buy orcs. Because I wanted to yell "wah" to go fight. Yeah, and when I did, I said, okay, what's a good elite army? Because I didn't want to bring too many models. I didn't want to start a whole new orc thing. And they said,
That's money, man.
there's a lot. And what I got told was Flesh Eater Courts, because they were new and they were hot, and you could bring all these giant monsters. And I said, that's a wonderful idea, because Flesh Eater Courts, their whole thing is that they're insane. They suffer delusions. They say, hey, we are... that basically, they are it starts off, there's a whole thing. There's a whole list of reasons why they're crazy, but at the end of the day, they are these deprived, cannibalistic people who eat other people, but when they do, they see themselves not eating someone else, but maybe killing a boar and bringing it back for a great feast, when it's actually, your mother-in-law, which you really hope did get eaten.
It's not their fault.
But it is their fault. They're so delusional and so crazy that what they see is what you believe. So the fun thing about it is, because they're crazy, you can say that they're anything. They still believe they're living their old lives. They're role-playing to the max. But one of the things, what I did with it was, I'm like, okay, I could have this crazy aberrant ghoul king vampire thing riding atop this giant undead bat or dragon, but what he sees is himself as a noble knight riding atop his alicorn of doom. Like,
You might as well say it's like on the ocean and skipping across and like riding the waves.
yeah, the ground is basically the ocean. The grass and the wind creates the waves, and he's fighting this giant sea battle. I could do any of that. I could have, I could like yell out when I go to charge and make that charge that in a Scottish accent for all I care, because they believe they're Scottish. They could believe that the Valkyries on their side because they have winged versions of them, so they have the Valkyries fly in with them.
Yeah, but you're good at that. You're good at making stories. You're good at thinking ahead and around. I know some people who are just excited. This looks like an orc. This is fantasy. This is as far as I go. They don't think, all right, this orc's now going to go over here and do this and do that and get killed by this or kill that.
There are some people that think even less than that. I've had people I've spoken with who will get armies just because they're the best thing at that time. They're not enjoying what they have. They may think it's aesthetically cool, but that's as far as they go.
So with the one thing I brought up earlier, with between the empty shell and the one that's already filled, I kind of feel like you enjoy more the empty shell, that you fill it yourself and you go the direction you want, because it can change different playthroughs. The scripted one usually is the same, different a little bit. Doesn't really give much choices. Even if it does, it doesn't really matter. But you still role play it. You enjoy it. That to me would be the Halo. Same campaign, and the only difference is now multiplayer.
Right, and that's a good point, because like I said, it's just me that does that. But at the same time, if you take a minute to think about it and go, okay, this is a role-playing game. At its maybe not even at its core. At its core, it's meant to be, go back to Halo, a shooter. It's meant to be a game where you go around and blast people to death. But behind that, you're still, they've made a story where you're going to play as this person, and you're going to enjoy it. It's how much you want to get into it is up to you. Now, you don't have to be out loud yelling, "I'm Master Chief! I'm gonna shoot that alien in the head." No, you're still gonna go for Grunt's birthday party, so every time you get a headshot, it's gonna go, "Yay!" and confetti comes out.
At least one person every time will scream yay with it.
But you enjoy that, and you look for it. I know I do. Look, the reason I said this is because I do it. But it's one of those, what is it, Halo 2 is my favorite because the story is one of the best ones to me. Going around, shooting things, just the way it worked. And the sword. Well, they changed the sword for the worse, but I'm not going to get into that.
That's a different podcast.
This is about role-playing. But yeah, it's really how much you want to get into it. Like, if you don't want to be in it and have fun with it, then and you just want to shoot things, then just shoot things. But if you want to role-play with it, you can.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What makes it not an RPG?
What you do in the game.
You mean you yourself, or what the game predefines for you?
What the game is supposed to be, what the designers expect it to be. The designers expect it and want it to be a shooting game first and foremost, where the genre is shooter, first person. You go around and you shoot things. You have a story, but that only helps define the game so you can play it more. I don't think it's meant to be a role play, because that's not what it was intended. It's about intent.
So if it had no story whatsoever, it's just you walk around shooting, like all you see is a gun, you don't even know what you look like. Is that role playing still, or is that done? Is that just a shooter?
That in that instance could make it more of a role play where you're trying to be that person because you're trying to make something up. Otherwise, if you just see a floating gun and you go,
I am the gun.
You are Megatron. Anyone who knows, and I'm going just in case, the original Transformers cartoon, Megatron turned into a gun, and then other people shot him.
And that back then, the toy was a gun.
Yeah, it was. So, but that's really so if anyone's wondering, the question that was never asked, which is this one, the best way to put it, does it RPG? Yes, it does. It's like, hey, look, let's find out, does it bacon or does it fry? Does it RPG? Yeah, if you wanted to, because all it is you role playing.
All right, then one more question for you then.
Yeah.
If everything could be a role playing game, does the question become, Is it a good RPG?
The question would then become, at least to me, is it an immersive role-playing game?
Come on, now you're just being smart and being correct and proper.
You're welcome. So, like, say we play Dominion, which is a deck building game. It's really hard to role-play that. It really is, because it's all a game about just the cards you pick and the strategy. You can say you're a lord of a Dominion trying to be the best and the most prosperous. But at the end of the day, when you look back at it, it's hard to define you as a character when you're just buying cards or making, no village is going to work with just, or no town or dominion is going to work with just villages and a torturer, which I can do and win. Meanly, by the way. It's all just dependent on who you are. So it just depends on, like I said, the immersion.
Isn't that the one with the roads?
No, that's the one with the deck building game where you can, you have 10 cards in the middle, you have a certain amount of gold and victory points to start off with, and you buy victory points, provinces, things like that. So, yeah, it's a deck building game. It's kind of weird, but it's one of my favorites.
That's my fault.
You're thinking of Catan.
Yep.
Yep.
My road's bigger than yours.
Catan was one of those things I would say would be a role-playing game because you're a village. You're trying to grow.
You are a village. You're really, like, pushing it out there.
Hey, you're the leader of this village, and you got to get resources from your lands.
Not the leader. You are a village.
All right, so I think that's going to be about enough time for us today. Thank you, Sir Rankin,